Alright, guys, so everything is breaking down. The Russian sanctions fallout is going global, and a lot of countries they are freaking out. And we have a ton of rumors going around as well. Now, some people or sources are saying that Chinese oil majors have stopped buying Russian oil. But until we see the data, I find that rather hard to believe. Now, the US also hopes the sanctions will cut off India's supply of Russian oil. Maybe the 50% tariff isn't enough, but threatening financial Armageddon could. But chances are China or India isn't going to abandon Russia, because if they do, it signals something dangerous. It confirms to Trump that sanctions actually work, and he'll continue to bully the world. It will also break BRICS unity, which will backfire. Then US sanctions on tariffs can pick off one country at a time, so that scenario won't end well. Now, punishing Russia's war machine is one thing, but an even bigger incentive is to replace Russian crude with US supply. Now, this is not a coincidence that this came as China walks away from US energy imports. There's definitely a connection here. Take India's crude supply, for example. Rosneft and Lukoil supply India with the majority of their Russian imports. That's over a million barrels per day, which is an enormous volume for just two companies. Well, Trump wants to replace that with US crude. It's a big benefit if Russian supply gets cut away from countries, especially India. Now he can swoop in with an energy deal to lower tariffs, but you must buy US crude. And here's the truth, will it even matter? There will be transshipment going on, and instead of India, it'll be China being the middleman. Chinese companies could be the ones buying up all the Russian crude and then re exporting it out to the world. So there will be consequences for this move. It's going to break and it's going to reshuffle supply chains, but not in a way that Trump thinks it would. And the situation is already starting to backfire on US allies. Germany is in panic mode. They are rushing to secure exemptions from the oil sanctions for their Rosneft refineries. Now, this sounds weird, but yes, there are Rosneft refineries located within Germany itself. Now, the background is important. Rosneft's assets, including their refineries, are placed under German administrative control or trusteeship. Now, this happened in 2022, so the Russians have lost effective control of the refineries and it's now under the Germans. Merz is afraid of US sanctions on Russian oil because it directly affects Rosneft assets all over the world. The Germans, they are in a very big pickle. Rosneft Russia owns at least 50% of the German entity. So the German entity by right is facing the sanctions as well. And that means customers have to stop dealing with Rosneft Deutschland by late November. And if they don't, we know the whole gamut. Big financial sanctions from the United States. They could get their assets confiscated, get kicked out of SWIFT, and blocked from the US dollar system. So it is a credible threat for many players in the world. It's painful for Germany as well. The Rosneft PCK refinery is located in northeastern Germany, and it accounts for more than 12% of Germany's refinery capacity. It's the largest processing company in the country. If this refinery is shut down, Germany's oil sector will get decimated, refining costs will go up, customers will have to leave and get their supply elsewhere. They might even get it from Chinese refineries. Turning crude oil into jet fuel and gasoline in Germany is about to get more expensive if this happens. Downstream industries like plastics, pharmaceuticals, and fertilizers, they're going to get clobbered as well. But if Germany gets the exemption, it will expose an incredibly big double standard. The UK sanctions on Russian oil earlier, a few weeks ago, already agreed to exempt Rosneft refineries in Germany. But if the US follows suit, then there are truly two rule books in the world. One set of rules for the G7 and one set of rules for everyone else. And this will cause a global uproar. The bifurcation of the world order is going to get worse. But Merz doesn't have a choice. Germany just posted its biggest industrial decline in more than 3 years. Industrial output has collapsed by 4.3% in September. And this is what happens when you have an energy crisis colliding with Trump's tariff war. So Germany has to beg Washington for exemptions, or the German industrial base will crash even further. It's nasty, but I guess Trump has Europe where he wants them. He'll probably squeeze more concessions from us. This is the art of the deal after all. For Russia, this isn't happy news. We have Medvedev calling this an act of war. The Kremlin is obviously outraged. It's not looking good here, guys. Putin himself has a warning to the US that this set of sanctions will backfire. The US economy will get hammered with higher inflation.
If our oil and our petroleum product will be removed from the global market, the prices will grow. And we discussed it with my American counterpart. It will result into the spike, in the upsurge in the fuel, in the energy, including at the gas stations, including the US. The United States will not be excluded from this.
There will be fallout for the US, for China, and for BRICS. This is also a very big concern. They are not happy campers here. Even if the pain is short term, there will be a big system shock. This is a reminder that sanctions will always be a go to strategy for the US. No matter the administration, it will be part of the American tool belt. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump, really doesn't matter. Now, China gets 20% of their total crude imports from Russia, and this is subsidized oil bought at a nice discount. It's helping to keep multiple Chinese industries competitive. And if the US loses it and really decides to enforce the sanctions on China, then Beijing will have to choose: turn their back on Russia and lose the deep discounted supplies and an ally, or take the hit and get cut away from the Western financial system. Now, this could include producers, traders, and even shippers as well. Now, my guess is that China will collide head on with the US because if you give an inch, Trump is going to take a mile. But it does confirm what Beijing will do going forward. The veil has been lifted, and the US China decoupling, especially financially, is going full speed ahead. There's no alternative left. Let's understand China's exposure to Russian energy. It's not just crude oil, it's broad based exposure across the entire spectrum of fossil fuels. In September, China bought more than $5 billion worth of Russian fossil fuels. 3 billion from crude oil, of course, but 2 billion from coal, gas, LNG, amongst others. And that is in one single month. Do you think Beijing will really give this up? Geopolitically, it will be abandoning Russia. And we know who's the next target on the list. It's China. And secondly, what currency do you think this trade is being done in? De-dollarization is happening here. Probably 100% of settlements are done in either the RMB or the Russian ruble. You give this up and China will have to re-dollarize their trade again. It's unthinkable. So these sanctions have only strengthened China's resolve to de-dollarize completely from the US. They will continue to develop their payment rails, the SIP systems, and the digital RMB. But the most immediate effect will be the dumping of treasuries. Now, China literally has no choice at this point. If you think the sell-off so far was bad, it's only going to get worse. If we count in Hong Kong, China still owns nearly $1 trillion of US Treasury bonds, but they're already starting to dump their holdings. They're selling some and allowing others to mature without rolling the money back into US debt. Mainland China has dropped their holdings of US bonds by 54 billion. That's over the last 6 months. For Hong Kong, they shed over $26 billion worth as well. The sanctions on Russian oil, they are a reminder of China's exposure of dollar assets. And these treasury bonds are not located in China. They are held by American custodians on US soil, which means if a confiscation happens, Beijing still has nearly $1 trillion on a hook. So we can expect the Chinese to get out of Dodge. They will continue selling their holdings. They will buy more gold. They will lend more to BRICS. They will build up their tech industry and supply chains. US dollars, they are now toxic to the Chinese. However, will the US really sanction China over Russian oil? Now, this is hard to say because Beijing has a critical US sector under a vice grip. It's a big squeeze for US farmers and it's only going to get worse. Because of US trade policies, American farmers, they are stuck in no man's land. They want to sell their crops, they want to sell their harvest to China, but Beijing simply isn't buying anymore.
And when Trump got mad at China and made the big tweet about China, and they took 15 cents off the basis and 20 cents off the market, I don't know that the Chinese are coming back. I mean, I don't know that. Why would you come back with somebody that every day they don't know where they stand? Anytime they do anything, and I'm not telling you the Chinese are perfect, but anytime they do anything, we get mad. There's no stable ground. How do you feed a billion people without stable ground?
Trump is caught in a very bad place as well. China isn't powerless. They have leverage that goes beyond just buying US oil. Now, Trump is considering giving US farmers a $10 billion bailout. But if that is the plan, he have to do it season after season, year after year. It won't end well. Last year, in 2024, China bought over $13 billion worth of US soybeans, and this accounts for 20% of total US supply. That's already a drop from the previous years that was probably double the amount. Now the number is a big fat zero. China has not confirmed a single cargo from the new harvest. Sure, you can argue that Trump can bail the farmers out continuously, that the US can buy their own food to build a national stockpile. Now, that is true, it's possible. Even if we discount adding more to the national debt, it still doesn't help make US farmers competitive. Costs will only escalate further, and when the subsidies end, the decimation will be complete. So make no mistake, Trump is caught very badly in this one. And it's not just farmers getting clobbered. The entire US supply chain is feeling the pain. Transporting soybeans from the US to China is a process. There's no teleportation machine. It isn't magic. Roughly 25 million tons of harvest sailed between the US and China last year. You need railways, you need storage depots to make that happen. And now shuttle trains throughout North and South Dakota have zero business. These are the knock-on effects of China's cutoff. If the US really pressures China to dump Russian oil, do you think Beijing will start buying US soybeans? Really think about this. We are seeing a really dangerous re-escalation before the Trump-Xi meeting. And it's pretty obvious what Trump wants from Beijing. He wants the rare earth curbs to go away. He wants China to rescue US farmers. He also wants China to stop buying Russian oil. And knowing the art of the deal, he'll probably cave to China on Russian oil imports. However, is that even enough? The rare earth curbs and the farmer situations are big cards that China holds. Trump still thinks that the US holds a winning hand, that he really has the Chinese cornered badly.
We're actually on November 1st, the tariff on China goes to 157%. Which is record-setting territory. And we don't want that because it's not sustainable for them. They can't sustain that. We don't want them to have to go through that. So a meeting with President Xi and
So stay tuned. This meeting is just 2 days before November the 1st. That's when the tariffs are supposed to go up to 150%. And if the meeting collapses, which it could, then markets would crash all the way to the underworld. At this point, everything is just pure lunacy. But let me know what you think. Will Germany get their oil exemption from Trump? And can US farmers really survive the trade war? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through this economic decimation.